This is Maureen Kafkis, the Brain BS coach, here to tell you about the episode today. So, in this episode of the RJ experiment, we are going to be talking about relationships because at the end of the day, relationships really are the most important thing to us as humans, and they are here for us to learn. So, RJ is going to learn a little bit about his past, and we're going to talk about his future and how learning how to reframe your relationships in a way that empower you can be really beneficial. I just want to remind you again in this episode that I'm not a therapist. I'm not a medical professional. I'm an occupational therapist, but primarily a brain BS coach. So I'm here to give you strategies on how to learn how to live consciously, manage your thoughts in your mind, and cultivate a mind body connection. It is not a replacement for professional services. So keep that in mind as you listen to the episode. So sit back, settle in. Episode 170 of the Brain BS podcast, The RJ Experiment, Episode 2. Do you want more out of your life but not exactly sure what that might be? Are you longing for something but can't quite put your finger on what it is? That is the universe speaking to you, and it is time to listen up. I'm your host, Maureen Kafkis, the Brain BS coach. I created the Brain BS podcast to help people define what success means to them and show them how to get it. I help you to let go of fear and doubt and prepare your nervous system for success. I show you how to understand your own energy and to trust yourself to make all the decisions. If you are ready to go inward and stop looking outside yourself for all the answers, this is the podcast for you. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the Brain BS podcast. We're in our experiment with RJ here and we're in episode number 2. So first, let's just ask RJ how he's doing since the last time we talked to him.
I'm doing good. I mean, I continue to walk, just
Every
FYI,
day?
every day, at least half
Nice.
an hour, at least half an hour each day, if not more. Um, so that's good for me. I don't really feel any different. I mean, I think the health benefits of walking is it takes a little bit of time to build up and to for me lower my A1C. Um, anyways,
Well, okay, wait, I'm going to stop you there because there's a little bit of brain BS.
well, no, I mean, I'm just saying for me, when I was walking last year, my A1C was reduced.
That's
And when
not
I
the
was,
brain BS I'm talking about.
oh,
I,
okay,
I, we're the expert on diabetes on that, so I'm totally conceding to that. But I'm guessing that if you really went inward
yeah,
and thought about it, you haven't been exercising for a long time. You've been sedentary and not taking care of yourself. So there's other benefits besides the physical part of how it's going to impact your lung capacity and your A1C. There's
yes,
the fact that you're taking care of yourself, that
yeah,
you're making yourself a priority, that I'm guessing you have to be clearing your head. And during the time you're walking, sometimes you're listening to podcast episodes that can nourish your soul. So tell me
yes.
again, are you noticing any difference, or are you just like so not in touch with that part of it that you're just not even noticing it?
Um, I notice I feel good after I walk, you know, but I'm not. I don't, to me, it hasn't changed my health in any way yet. you know,
Okay, so
when
not your physical health.
not my physical health or my, I mean, mental. Yeah, I mean, I listen to podcast and the other thing is I have Jimmy joining me during my walks with his Walkman, from 1980s
Oh,
or
really? Are you
90.
using his Walkman?
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's
Jimmy
so cool.
Jimmy always, wore a Walkman when when he would be out working in his garage and doing, carpentry and so forth. And so that was one of the things I got after he passed away. So I use that and it's just a Walkman, a radio Walkman. It doesn't have the cassettes or anything like that. But so Jimmy walks with me too.
Okay, so all right, let's talk about that for a minute. since
All
we're
right.
going to be talking about relationships here today,
Yeah.
anyway, on the podcast in terms of health and wellness. So Jimmy's walking with you every day. So there has to be some sort of spiritual or emotional component when you're using his Walkman, whether you're acknowledging it or not. For you, using his Walkman while you're walking is like a way to connect with him, would you say?
Um, yes. That, he's there with me, you know, helping me, encouraging me.
Okay. So I imagine, and I'm not going to ask you to do it right now because we only have limited time here, but I imagine that goes pretty deep. You're wanting him to be there and wanting him to support you when you're doing this work. So is it physically difficult to walk for you at this point?
Not at this point. I mean, there are certain things that are taxing. What was I doing the other day? God, I can't remember, but it was, it was something where, I was lifting things or moving things, and, I felt winded. Oh, I was moving a whole bunch of storage boxes to get to uh, my 1980 yearbook because I'm going, the pictures, going back and going, oh, okay, that's what, I remember the name, I just don't, can't clearly see the faces sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
So okay, so what inspired you to do that?
the, um, uh, the post on your announcing the experience and some of the people, commenting on it. So it's like, all right,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I
this
mean,
is
all right.
kind of interesting because like I'm just noticing, right, that
Mhm.
as we're doing this experiment and this is how it works, it's kind of taking you to the past a little bit,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And that's where our
yeah,
subconscious and unconscious programming comes from. So it totally makes sense that's happening. So
yes.
let's talk. All right. So is there anything else that you need the audience should know about how you're doing now before we dive into the relationship part?
I did go to my cardiologist today, and I have a clean bill of health on my heart. So
Yay. That's
yeah,
awesome. That's
thumbs up on
huge.
that one.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Another thing that I don't have to worry about. I don't have to do you know,
All this
the
stuff.
doctor's appointments,
Yes. Yes.
all of that fun stuff, and I can, cross that line off. I mean, I'll still have, my yearly checkup and everything like that, but
Yeah. And then you
you
have
know,
your pulmonologist appointment this afternoon. So don't forget to ask them about the spirometer
yes, yes, I do
and
have that as well.
respiratory therapy if that's something that you should be thinking about now or that you could do proactively.
Yes, yes.
So,
I had the spirometer, but the respiratory therapy I did not note. I
yeah.
remember talking about it. I just couldn't remember what the hell you called it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. And he's writing it down, audience, because that's what you do when you're getting ready to go to the doctor and you have a lot of appointments and a lot of different things going on. You write down your questions and the stuff that you want to address. And I just also, this is the occupational therapist that worked in healthcare setting for years. You do not want to wait for healthcare professionals to suggest things to you. You want to be proactive about your care because nobody knows your body better than you do.
Yes.
So it's really important to be proactive about it. Okay, so let's talk about relationships.
Okay.
Woo-hoo. Yes.
Woohoo.
So
Yes.
now relationships can be very private for a lot of people. So we're not necessarily going to dive super deep on this. We can go as deep as RJ wants to go, but we're going to talk about a couple of concepts in terms of relationships that maybe some of you aren't familiar with in the audience. So first of all, the most important relationship we have is the one that we have with ourselves. And the reason for that is the way we treat ourselves is the way we treat other people. So if you're the type of person that beats the shit out of yourself and is super hard on yourself and never thinks you're good enough and is always striving for perfection, then you're probably not the easiest person to be a friend with or a sibling or a partner.
Yeah.
So how would you rate on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being amazing and one being it sucks, your relationship that you have with yourself, and why?
Um, I would probably, 8. I mean, I think I have a good relationship with myself and within myself. I don't really, beat myself up on things that I can't control, um, or that I can control, and if they don't go the way I don't want them to go, you know, beat myself up. Um, I, have been over this last year, I guess more, understanding my body and what's happening within myself internally, not necessarily mentally, but physically. Um, the mental aspect, you know, I was talking to someone and they were struggling with, anxiety and depression and, and taking medication for anxiety and so forth. And I'm going, I don't think I've ever had an anxiety episode in my entire life, and they're going, oh, okay, you know,
Well,
um,
okay, so I think it depends on how you describe anxiety, because I mean, anxiety is a human emotion that everybody experiences. You might
yes,
not have had
yes.
an anxiety attack
Attack,
like
all right,
some
an
people.
anxiety attack, I would say,
Yeah, okay, like a panic
where,
attack,
yeah,
right?
panic attack, anxiety attack, and so forth. Have I been, had, you know, moments where you dread it, or you're, sure, everyone has that, but I guess an anxiety attack, I've never, been debilitated where, I can't function because of that anxiety attack or those
Right.
thoughts.
Yeah. So,
Um,
okay, so so your the way we talk to ourselves has gives us an indication, but also the way we take care of ourselves gives us an indication. So I'm gonna
yeah,
just kind of give you something to ponder, that you haven't been taking care of your body, you haven't been exercising, and that is indication of the relationship that you have with yourself. So
yes,
so it's like it goes kind of deep, the relationship we have with ourselves, and also it's about being able to say no to other people when we want to, and not saying yes because we're trying to people please and make people happy. It's
yeah,
about making ourselves a priority, even if it's going to make a loved one disappointed because we're not doing what they want us to do. So there's on the surface, it can appear like it's good, but it also goes deep because it's about, do you have your own back and do you make yourself a priority like you would make your kid a priority when you need to?
I definitely make my children a more priority than I do myself. Yeah, I have 3 children, great, lovely people, 2 girls and a boy, and a grandson. So I am a grandfather. And yes, I would put them above myself, you know,
Yeah. So
um,
and that sounds, and it is actually admirable and it sounds noble, but it is in some ways in the traditional sense of how we look at things, but from a spiritual, emotional standpoint, when we don't take care of ourselves and
yeah,
we take care of other people all the time instead of us, that doesn't raise our frequency and make us like the highest version of ourselves that we can be. And
yeah,
sometimes, not sometimes, when we go inward and we do that for ourselves, even though it's uncomfortable for our kids and our partners and the people around us, it
yeah,
ends up having a positive ripple effect because then they have to step up and grow, right? Because if we try to make everyone around us comfortable for their own benefit because we love them,
yes,
then they have a very difficult time dealing with discomfort,
yes.
right? It's like an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you constantly, you know, give that person what they need and not worry about yourself just so that they can make it in this world. Um, you know, I can understand that,
Yeah.
what you had
So
said.
just something to ponder. And then
Yeah.
the other thing that we want to look at with relationships is after we look at the one that we have with ourselves and stuff, and then we look at the relationships in our own lives at our age, with us
Yeah.
being 61 and 60,
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of history there with relationships with different people, with your parents,
Yeah.
your relationship with your parents, with your siblings, with your ex-wife,
Yeah.
with your children, with friends, community, old coworkers, your friends that
Yeah.
you grew up with that you're still friends with,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Which is
Yeah.
pretty rare. Although
Yeah.
it must be a North Side thing because my brother Pat's friends with all his, and so is
Yeah.
your brother Pat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. But so you want to look at your relationships, and typically there's things that we have to forgive ourselves for in those relationships, things that we have to forgive other people for. So where would you say you are on that in terms of if you, because here's the thing, that you could have relationships with other people and they
Yeah.
could be deceased and no longer living, and you could still change your relationship with them now,
Hmm.
because all a relationship really is the thoughts that you have about another person.
Yes.
You can't
And
touch or pick up a relationship. It's all your thoughts, and it's your thoughts about what you think they think about you.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think I have a good relationship with, um, had a good relationship with my parents. Of course, my dad died when I was, in high school at 17. Um, and he was a hard worker. Ran the grocery store, 6 days out of the week, and then on Sunday, relaxed and you know, made us all breakfast Saturday
Oh,
morning or Saturday morning or Sunday morning. We would, so our Sunday morning breakfast was with dad, and then, off to church or go to church and then come home for dinner or for breakfast. Um, so parents, I, I believe I had a wonderful relationship with my parents. Um, you
okay, so
know,
let's just stop for a second, because did your dad die of a heart attack?
He died after open heart surgery. So he had a quadruple bypass and passed away after, in recovery.
Okay, okay. So, and was he sick for a long time before then?
He had a heart attack. He was sick for probably less than 6 months. You
Okay.
know,
The
but
reason I ask is because like sometimes when we have these things that happen to us unexpectedly
yeah,
or things that are really traumatic,
yeah,
they have an impact on us whether we realize it or not. In the moment, you realize it, but a lot of people don't
yeah,
realize that it continues to have an impact if there's any sort of like unfinished business with them, anything you didn't say that you wish you said, or anything that you feel bad about. Like it's the silliest, it can seem like the silliest little things, but you can, and I'm doing this for the audience too, not just
yeah, 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 yeah.
you, that you can think usually there's something that sticks with people that they
Mhm.
wish, like for me it was like 2 nights before my mom died, she was doing what you call posturing. So
Mhm.
she was in hospice and she was doing all, and it was making me so anxious and I was getting frustrated with her, and I
Yeah,
felt guilty about that after she died, because I didn't know how to manage my mind then for years, even though I took great care of her and
yeah,
was
yeah,
super supportive. So do you feel like, and this isn't just about your dad, I'm just using him as an example, if
yeah,
there's
yeah.
anyone in your life that you have unfinished business with that you haven't addressed?
Um, I mean, for my dad, it was probably, when he left to go to the hospital to have the surgery. We kissed and hugged that morning, and I think I said I love you. But it's just so hard to remember 40 some years ago what did I say that morning to him. It was, you. No one was expecting him not to survive. Um, so you assume everything's going to be fine and that he'll be home in a couple weeks after the surgery, and you'll be able to go see him, and that wasn't the case. Um, my brother John passed away from pulmonary fibrosis, which I also have. More just, the communication when he was, struggling with his thing, and at that time, I was married and got kids, and you're just go 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 and work work work, and taking the time to sit down and call him. We talked every once in a while, but when he was in the hospital, he was in Youngstown and I was in California, and breaking away to go see him, I didn't do that. Philip, who was in London, kind of the same thing, where he was in the hospital for a little bit of time, but to get to London to say goodbye was hard. Um, I was told after, he wasn't in his, I guess, he had brain cancer. Um, so I did find out later that he was asking for me, but
Aw.
no one no one
Oh,
told me about it,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
or I didn't know about it for a while. Uh, you know, Jimmy and my being a twin brother, um, he was in the hospital. Um, we were all around him, all of the family, um, and it was a little bit after midnight. Everyone had gone home except for me and his wife, uh, and we just needed to take a break, and so. um, she walked out to smoke a cigarette. I went down to the cafeteria to see, is there anything to eat? Go to the vending machine, throw into, get a candy bar or whatever. And, I remember, you push the button, and I can't remember what the candy bar was, let's say it's Snickers. Um, and two Snickers drop out. Just like, wait a second, I got two for one.
Oh, wow,
So
the whole twin thing, that's kind
the
of,
whole twin thing. So I, go up to the floor, and I'm sitting at the end of the floor, and eating my one Snickers. And the nurse pops out of the room and, looks down and sees me, 50, 60 yards down down the hall, and, frantically waves me in. And, so I run down the room, and, was able to hold him as he took his last breath. Um, so that, and then, helped his wife prepare, his body, and getting him dressed and in his clothes, and, you know, helping the coroner, you know, tying his hands, tying his legs, put him in a body bag, wheel him down to the coroner's wagon. And so I guess the last thing I told Jimmy was, you know, you were at the hospital. Um, and he was, he had been in the hospital many times with the transplant, with the um, cancer and everything like that. And one of the things to get out of the hospital is you got to poop, right? You got
yeah,
to poop.
always you got to
you
poop.
know?
Yep.
And so, he he had a bowel movement, and he thought, oh, I'm gonna go home, and I had to tell him, Jimmy, I'm going, Jimmy, you're here to die. You're not gonna go.
Oh, wow.
So that that sticks with me at times. But he's with me. He's walking with me. his
Yeah,
Walkman.
he is with his Walkman, and I love that. I do. I love that.
Yeah,
Okay, so given the like the stories that you just told us and the moments
yeah,
and the memories that you have,
yeah,
this kind of ties into the next thing that even though you didn't do anything wrong by not being there for Philip, you were
yeah,
busy, you were married, you had kids, he was in London.
yeah,
There's probably still a part of yourself that's, that yeah, that you have to forgive yourself
yeah,
for human limitations and not being able to be there. But the only way that we can become aware of what we need to let go of and what we need to address inside us is by bringing it up into our awareness, because we spend so much of our time squashing it down so that we can manage it and it doesn't take us over emotionally,
yeah,
all
yeah,
the difficult things in life and stuff. So one thing that's really helped me, and I did this as an exercise, and something you might want to consider, is totally up to you because this is an experiment. So what works for me might not work for you.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I found writing letters to the people in my life that I have somewhat unfinished business with, or I don't feel at peace with
hmm,
totally or 100%. I and I've done this with a lot of people too,
yeah,
not just people who have died. I write letters to get, first of all, everything that I have inside my head out, because we're
yeah,
not meant to store all that information, and get it all out and then look at what it's creating in front of me. Because when I see
yeah,
the primary state of mind that it's creating, like the emotion, whether it's sadness or angst or whatever,
yeah,
then I can address it and I can kind of and just fully accept all of it, flaws, imperfections, and all, and that's the way it played out. And that could have had a lot to do with how present you were for Jimmy.
yeah, yeah.
I like to
No,
think
yeah,
we learn from the people who, like my mom, I like to think that she died first because she was always so kind and loving and generous. And she was sort of like our little guinea pig in our family because we hadn't lost anyone and
yeah,
we didn't
yeah.
really know how to deal with death. And then it's like a learning experience with every person who dies. You become better and better at being there to support your loved ones when they're leaving here.
No, no, and I definitely agree. And I have lost my other sister, Carol, the oldest out of the family. Um, and that was also hard. She was in Columbus, um, but I have a good relationship with all my other siblings. Only one brother, Patrick, left, and five of my sisters. We come from a big family of 11 kids with three sets of twins. um, but so mom would only tell you, oh, it was only 8 pregnancies. It's like, oh, great.
Only 8.
Only 8. I wanted 5 kids until I had one. That's like, oh
Yeah,
shit.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I know.
way
That's
too much
hilarious.
work.
Yeah,
um, but we talk all the time. We on a text thread with all of our siblings and all of their kids and my kids and stuff. So we stay in touch that way, and I'm able to you know tell them about my health issues and share that with them, and bring them up to speed with where I'm at with my health challenges, and they have health challenges too. um,
yeah,
whether it be the hearts and the diabetes and lupus and other mental faculties that are declining, and vision, and so you got so many people, everyone's going to have something that's wrong with them, ailing with
yeah.
them.
Well, you bring
But
up a good point because what you were just talking about, I was just thinking of family, and
yeah,
I know that I sent you a pickleball set.
yes, and
Thank you for coming to Pat's house. And I know you all had plans to play pickleball, and the OT and me was like, that's good for cognition, for keeping the score and following the rules. It's good for
yeah,
vision,
yeah.
hand-eye coordination, physically. So how did the pickleball outing go?
Well, we didn't we didn't play.
Oh,
It was
what?
it was one of those ones. We were at my niece's, birthday party, third birthday party, and it's one of those things where you just keep on going, and then all of a sudden you turn around, it's like 4 o'clock, and it's like, where's the closest pickleball court? And this is like 20 minutes away, and they're everyone's tired, and it's just like, all right, well. we'll get together, again. So I'm trying to see if, me and Pat can at least play on tomorrow on Thursday, because we get together every week for Thursday night dinner. So to
All right, I'm going to be
watch football
following
and
up
have
with
dinner.
that. Yep.
We will text, we'll send you a picture.
I want a picture. I want proof that you're on the court now. All right. Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit now, and this is up to you how much you want to disclose here, but you are
Yeah,
also married and you're
yeah,
divorced. So often in a marriage that ends in divorce, I'm married to someone who's divorced, there can
yeah.
be a lot of stuff that went on in the past and a lot of unfinished business. So how do you feel you are on that front?
Well, I was married to Kimberly was her name. Um, when we first got, married, it was great. Had, three children, and loved each other, and um, uh, had a good relationship. Um, struggled at times financially, of course, with any marriage or whatever it was, but married for, gosh, 28 years. Um, and it just drifted away. I mean, you have your things that you want to get done. They have their things that they want to, you know, work on, or need to work on. Um, and you can't support them continually. Um, so I couldn't support her; she couldn't support me, and it, it affected, both of us, and it affected, the children. Of course, they were in high school and middle school when we separated. Um, but out of it, came three beautiful children. Um, so you know, you have your, positives and your negatives, just like any other relationship. Her family is great, and I still stay in touch with all of her family. Um, with her, because I mean, I've known her dad longer than I knew my dad,
Wow,
and
yeah.
so it's something where they became that, mother and father, um, even though they were divorced. So it was, uh, her dad and stepmom, and then her mom and stepdad.
Oh, I know. I'm in a blended family. It's like the holidays recap. Like, where do you go? What do you do?
Yeah, yeah,
That, well, she might be a good person to write a letter to,
yeah, yeah,
right? I don't think we need to go any further with that on the podcast, but
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah,
that there's a lot of unfinished business or things that maybe even you just want to look at and possibly a lot of it, like I said, thoughts, our relationships are just the thoughts that we have about other people
yeah,
and what we think they think about us. So we can always stop and reframe the way we look at our relationships. And but we can't do it if we don't actually believe it in our body. It's not going to be beneficial. But if you can
yeah.
actually have a shift inside you of looking at it in a way that actually empowers you and makes you feel more at peace,
Hmm.
and that's available to you, then it's like, why not, right? But
Sure, sure.
sometimes it's just like all those emotions get trapped in your body, all the, I mean, I'm not divorced, but I'm married, and I know
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like even being married successfully, there's like a lot of times you just want to
It's
slap
it's
the
it's a
other person across
it's
the head.
another it's yeah, it's a job. It's
It's
definitely work.
challenging. Yeah, relationships are
You know.
challenging.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a, challenge to, um, you know, to live, let alone with someone else, and trying to satisfy someone else, and try to satisfy yourself, and try to satisfy, the work, and everyone else that comes into your life.
Yeah, and
Um,
that energetic state that you're in on a day-to-day basis when you're with someone and you're not on the same page and you're really struggling with them, that lowers your frequency and is going to cause a lot. It's just going to cause a lot of, it's going to cause more problems to come to your life
Yeah.
instead of good things, right? Because it's all about universal law and energy. What goes out is what comes back to you.
Yeah.
So, and then, but the other part is too that, so then that person's gone, they're not in
Mhm.
your life anymore, but that doesn't mean they're out of your DNA and your subconscious and unconscious programming. So you
Oh
still
yeah.
have to, right? So
Yeah.
we still have to address things. That's why so many people think that when they, and I'm not saying this is the case for you, but you split up with someone and your life's going to be so much better, and then it's not,
Yeah.
because it's like there you are, you're still there with your head and your brain and your subconscious programming. So
Yeah. No, she still shows up in my dreams sometimes.
yeah, well, that's an indication for sure that there's unfinished business.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Strange
Well,
dreams.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Okay, so and then the other part is like and I don't know a whole lot about this, but I'm gonna do a little research on this for another episode with you, because
Okay.
you've lost so many people in your family that were really close to you.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that lung disease is tied to grief. So I would like to explore a little bit how working on grief could
Mhm.
actually be beneficial to you physically
Oh, okay.
in terms of so
I didn't correlate, lung disease and, pulmonary fibrosis as a scarring of the lungs. And, we believe it's more hereditary since my, brother John died of it. My sister Carol had it when she passed away, and my uncle Jim had it when he passed away.
well, it
Even though,
doesn't mean that it's not hereditary, but you can
yeah,
also have generational subconscious, unconscious programming that goes
got
from one generation to another, and it's inherent in your DNA in your family. So
it. Okay.
it's the mind body connection. For every
Hmm.
illness, there's some sort of emotional connection to it,
Okay. All
right?
right.
That's why
Yep.
some people in your family won't get it,
Yeah.
and some people will,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay. So, what else did it, so then the last thing I was going to talk about, like one of the, is there any other relationship in your life, like with your kids or an old coworker, anyone that you, feel like you have unfinished business with? Like it could be the weirdest, most random person and have an interaction that sticks with you. So can you think of anything like that?
Not that I don't have any unfinished business with. I mean, I have a great relationship with all three of my children. We communicate on a, if not daily, every other day. Um, I have good relationships with, even the guys I went to high school with and still stay in touch with. And, we try to get together with, there's a group of about five or six of us that, try to get together. A couple years ago, few of us went down to Georgia. Um, there's, relationships of friends that were in, California where me and my wife lived. And, I still stay in touch with them and, go out and see them when I'm going to see my daughter, Brittany, who still lives in the town where, they grew up. Um, coworkers. It was funny last week. Is like I can't remember. It was one day or something like that, and these coworkers that I haven't talked to in God probably 15, 20 years that I met you know 30 some years ago in 19 late 80s call me out of the blue. It's like, okay. Or as a guy that I'm friends with, he was in my wedding, a groomsman and everything like that. And I've been trying to reach out to them, a few of the people that I want to share my health struggles with, and let them know what I'm going through. So I'm not hiding or burying my head in the sand and hiding my mental, or sorry, my physical health conditions right now. And I think that's healthy for me. Um, you tell me.
Sure. Yeah, no, it is. And also like people are gonna reach out of the blue and things are gonna happen like that because you're actually opening up.
Yeah, yeah,
You're becoming more open because
yeah,
when we self-protect and we close down and we kind of disconnect from the outer world, not your inner world in your inner circle with your family, but the outer world, then we
yeah,
kind of shut that world, that part of the, so we protect ourselves, but then we can't put anything out there either. And then
yeah,
when we are able to open up and expand a little bit, then there's so many more good things that are available to us and so many more quality connections that we can have with people because we have an open heart and we're ready to receive it instead of just like keeping everything at bay.
yes. No, I would say that's, correct. And I feel that, and the fact that, um, talking to people that I haven't talked to in a while, or friends that I haven't talked to in years, reaching out to them, and if I can find their contact information, or I already have it and I know it, and but I neglect to talk to them. Um, and it's not on purpose. It's just, they're busy, I'm busy, I'll make whatever excuse I can,
Yeah,
can for not
well, I
doing it.
mean, that's
Right.
like that's a whole episode in itself where we
Yeah.
personalize things when people don't call us back and stuff. And I was
Or no,
getting,
or just taking the time to reach out and talk to, guys that I went to high school with,
yeah,
other, people. And, like I said, looking at the yearbook, um, it's just like, I wonder whatever happened to that person,
yeah.
being as like, where are they at the, 40 some years later, because I
Well,
actually,
okay, so I think this is
yeah,
interesting because it's 61. I
what's
think it's
that?
at your age, it's 61.
Yeah,
uh, like you're going back and opening up the yearbook and looking. I think that it's not as natural for people at our age to think about future relationships,
yeah,
right? And
yes,
open up to the
yes.
possibility of those. So I'm going to ask a question just because I feel like I have to because of what we're talking about.
All right.
Are you interested in getting into a romantic relationship in the future? Are you
Um,
open to that possibility?
I've, since I've been out in Arizona for about 3 years now, yeah, I've had a couple relationships and everything like that. But they, just wasn't the right fit. Or I kept on coughing the whole date.
I don't know why that would turn them off.
I don't know why either.
That's pretty funny.
But anyways, um, so it's yeah, I mean, I would be open, up for it, Maureen, and everything like that. But I'm not on, I don't go on any websites, the dating websites or anything like that. Or, if I, you know, the people I did date were, friends of friends. Um,
You don't have to go
so
on a website. Here's
no,
the truth.
yeah,
If you are open to it
yeah,
and you want it, it's gonna come to you. If you're
yeah,
really truly open to it and that means your subconscious programming is too. If you're open to it, then it will come to you. You just have to be able to see it. Because sometimes
yes,
the person that we think we're supposed to be with doesn't look the way we think they should.
yeah,
Or they come to us in a different way that we don't expect. So you just have to be open to all the possibilities. But I really think it's important to point that out in this episode because too many people who are middle aged think that it's too late to cultivate new relationships, new
yeah,
friendships. Some of my favorite people in my life I've met in the last couple years, and that goes all the way back to childhood friends, like
yeah,
people
yeah,
I really love and care about. So I just want to reinforce that just because we're older does not mean we can't meet new people and make friends. And if making friends is difficult,
yeah,
it's because of your subconscious and unconscious programming. It's something that can change. Even if
sure,
you think in high school, which I don't, I'm not saying that you think this, but in high school you think that you just don't know how to make friends. You never could. You didn't have friends. Like I actually did a podcast episode when I was just working with women that was, we're not in high school anymore, ladies, because people think they're who they were back in high school.
Cool. Yeah.
Like they still frame themselves with that because that's what their subconscious and unconscious programming does. So all of this, everything in our life, all our relationships, we can change them. We can end them if they're not good for us. We can
Yes.
cultivate new ones. Like it's all the possibilities are open to us.
And I'm open to meeting a nice woman also.
Yeah, so let's put it out to the universe. RJ
Yeah,
wants a woman.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So if there's any ladies in the audience,
Yeah.
I'm totally kidding.
Live in Phoenix area. They have to be geographically suitable.
Yeah, we might get in trouble. All right. Well, I think I covered everything that, if is there anything else that you want to say at the end of this? Like anything at all around
No.
your health and wellness and relationships?
Um, Nothing's jumping out of me. I think the first podcast dropped today, so that was interesting listening to myself.
Yes, how was that actually? I'm glad you brought that up because for people who do end up coming on and doing an experiment,
Yeah.
I'll tell you from the person doing the podcast, when I first started it, it's very uncomfortable to listen to yourself speak at first.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I thought it was good. I thought, we covered a lot of subjects. I think I was honest in what I was saying. Um, and looking forward to um sessions 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. And
You know,
I'm gonna look into the grief stuff
yeah.
and kind of like next episode.
Okay.
It's okay with you because if there's
Yeah.
something else that you would rather address, we can.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of look at maybe some different ways that you can approach some of this stuff that maybe you've never even thought of before. And
Yeah.
maybe you'll think it's like hogwash and you want nothing to do with it, but then
Yeah.
you'll at least be exposed to some different things that can help you, like the
Sure.
emotional part of
Yeah.
your illness. And then I'm also going to look into, um, I'm just going to I'm not quite sure what the next one. It's an experiment. We're going to see. And then
Yeah.
if you come up with something, you can just message me and tell
Okay.
me what you want to talk about in the next one.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. And then also be aware, like during the week for next
Yeah.
week when we meet, be aware what comes up for you. If
Okay.
like something comes up that causes you a lot of anxiety or something we talked about in here, you got thinking about it or whatever, because then we can make that the topic too.
Sure.
All
No,
right.
that sounds great. Sounds great.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on for episode number 2 in the RJ experiment.
Well, thank you, Maureen. Looking forward to next week.
All right, audience. I know you learned something valuable. I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for listening to the Brain BS podcast. I hope you really learned something here today that can be helpful and that you can apply to your own life. If you find it useful, I would appreciate it if you gave me a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts and shared the podcast with everyone you know so that I can reach more people and help them to learn how to live consciously and live the life they really want. If you'd like to be on the podcast, you can email me at mkcoachllc@gmail.com or message me on Facebook. Until the next time,